Hey guys, as mentioned in the last video, I'm going to give you a few thoughts on what often seems to be mundane. As we're talking about creating habits and habits that, the little habits, the small changes that we make, but the consistent habits that will determine our future. In fact, the small little mundane tasks that you've done up to this point has determined where you're at in life now. Those of you that are doing well in this course, it's because of the small little habits that you've created, the systems that you've created that have worked for you to accomplish the assignments and to glean from the knowledge of this course. And I think we all can agree that that point about our habits determine our future has been drilled into us into this course. But I want to talk about this word mundane meaning something that is almost mindless. It comes from routine. It's something we don't often have to think about. It's often things we don't even want to do, taking out the garbage or cleaning our house or something that just seems like it doesn't take a lot of thought and doesn't make a lot of difference. But I want you to hear this statement. I want you to hear it well, and I'm going to give you two biblical examples. Mundane time is not wasted time. I'm going to say it again. Mundane time is not wasted time. I want you to think about 1 Samuel chapter 9. The people had been wanting a king. They've been asking God for a king. He highlights Saul, and it was pleasing to the people eventually. But Saul had a father by the name of Kish, and his father owned a lot of donkeys, and they lost the donkeys. He sends Saul and a servant. He sends a son and a servant to go find those donkeys. And I want you to think about this. Certainly a man of such great wealth could have simply sent his servants. And certainly Saul could have had an attitude about the fact, why am I going after these donkeys when we have servants that can do that? It might have seemed like a mundane task, but God used that task, that mundane task that he was doing. In their search, they couldn't find the donkeys. Eventually, they came to a city where the prophet Samuel was at. It was God ordained, and in fact, they heard that a seer was there. And they go to that city and to inquire if maybe the prophet can give them some discernment. Well, God had spoken to Samuel, telling him that this young man Saul would be coming. And Samuel said to him, look, the Lord's brought you here, but I've got something to tell you. And it's at that point that God reveals Saul's future, his purpose. But here's the point that I want to drive to you. What if he refused to go search for his father's donkeys? What if he would have said, that is a mundane task and it is beneath my station in life. It is beneath my leadership capabilities. It is beneath the position that I have in your house. What if he would have done that? Well, then he wouldn't have encountered Samuel the prophet to hear about his future. It's very clear that the scriptures that Saul might have been chosen by God, but it was to satisfy the people's desires. And it's very clear that he wasn't a godly man. And in fact, when we get to chapter 15, we kind of see the beginning of his end. But I just want to point out the fact that the little things that we do, things that seem to be mundane, equip us for the things of the future. And it's either going to equip you for the good or it's going to equip you for the bad. And this is why it's really important that we create the proper healthy habits. Now, the one who followed Saul was obviously David, God's appointed man. And David became on the scene and was celebrated to be the future king because of his defeat of Goliath. He defeated Goliath, a warrior that intimidated the best of soldiers. David, as a young man, stands up to him. But what's interesting is David's training came in serving his father in the fields of the sheep that they were tending. Tending sheep doesn't seem like a great task, does it? But it was during that time, that mundane season of tending his father's sheep, that he learned how to defend the sheep. And the Bible says that he defended the sheep from a lion and a bear. David had to learn how to fight with a sling and a stone to defend the sheep from a lion and a bear. What was happening? God was training him. God was training him through a mundane task to defeat Goliath and eventually becomes a great warrior. So guys, listen, the mundane tasks that you're doing, the things that seem like they're not paying off big